There's a lot of writing on the front page of these notes, so I decided instead of you just watching me write all of them, what I'll do is I'll explain them, then I'll pause verbally for a moment so you can press pause and write down all you need to. So what I'd recommend is either you pause, write stuff down, then listen to me explain it, or listen to me explain it and then write it down, whichever is better for you. So first, domain and range. We talked about these, I believe, when we were talking about ordered pairs. Just a reminder that the domain is all the x values, and it can be in a relation like we had before. It can also be in an equation. So the range is the collection of the y values in the equation. And just so you know, with the relations we were talking about, that tended to be a pretty small number. It could be anywhere from like 3 to 10 each in the domain and range. But with functions, or equations I should say, it can be a lot bigger. So domain is all the x values, range is all the y. If it helps you remember, that's also alphabetical. D comes before R, X comes before Y. So D and X go together, R and Y go together. So I'll pause here and then go on to the next section. Okay, so you see I've got three words up here: equations, tables, and functions. Now a function, here's what makes a function unique. Each input has only one output. Each input has only one output. Now what that means in terms of x and y is that x's are paired with exactly one y, never more. Another way to say it is that x's cannot repeat in a function. They can in other relations, but not in functions. X's cannot repeat. Y's can repeat. So x's cannot repeat, y's can. And the graphs, which we'll practice those in the back of the page, they pass something called the vertical line test. And I'll explain that once we look at the graphs. So this next section helps us identify, is this a function or not? So let me say first, everything you're about to look at is a relation. Everything we're about to look at is a relation. But a specific kind of relation is a function. So all of these, are they relations? Yes. Any set of ordered pairs is a relation. But functions are ones where each input has only one output. So for tables, each input, which is the x value, has only one output, y value. So 2 just has one output. 4 has just one output. 5 has just one output. 6 just has one output. So if you look, the x's don't repeat. So that means yes, it is a function. The y's, they do happen to repeat. They don't have to, but they're allowed to. So 2 7s in the y's makes no problem as far as it being a function, because y's can repeat, but x's cannot. Okay, passes the vertical line test. If any vertical line touches the graph 2 or more times, the graph is not a function. So let me get a clean sheet here and try to illustrate that for you. We'll do practices with them on the back, but I'll just do them small. So if I had something like this as my graph, I can draw vertical lines anywhere I want, and they only hit the graph in one point. Each of them just hits it in one point. So that is a function. But if I had something like this, a vertical line hits it in 2 points. So that is not a function, because a vertical line should never hit a function in more than 1 point. And we'll practice that more in the back. Okay, for equations, if you are given an equation and asked, is it a function? There's 2 rules. There must be a y present, and the y can have no other power or exponent other than 1. So those are the 2 rules. If these 2 things are true, it's a function. If either or both of them are wrong, are not there, they're not true, then it's not a function. So both of these have to be true to be a function. So if you look at this one, there's a y, and it has a power of 1, understood power. So both connect, it is a function. Okay, here there is a y. It has no exponent except the understood 1, so this is also a function. So you see it's fine if something is being multiplied by y. It's also fine if x has exponents, but y cannot. So as look over here, y is present, but it has an exponent other than 1. So that's why this is not a function. We can't have an exponent other than 1. X equals 2 is not a function because it has no y. Now just so you know, it's okay if there's no x. That's not required. But there has to be a y for it to be a function. So this is not a function because there is no y. Okay, last one with ordered pairs. Each x can have only one y. Easier way to remember it, x's can't repeat, y's can. So this is a function, 4, 5, and 6. All I have to look at is the x values. 4, 5, and 6, those are all different. It is a function. 4, 4, and 6, we have a repeat in the x. So that's not a function. If x is repeat, it is not a function. Now on the back of this page, we're actually going to practice with some things. First, using the vertical line test. As you hopefully recall, we said that you can determine if a graph is a function whether it passes the vertical line test. So for all functions, any vertical line that we draw should only cross the graph at one point. So for this first function, I can draw just one vertical line and see that this fails the vertical line test. It hits the graph in 2 points. And if even one single vertical line would hit the graph in 2 points, it is not a function. Now, for this next one, if it helps you to draw several, you can. The point is you just visualize like, okay, if I draw vertical lines, okay, each of these just hit it in one spot. No single vertical line ever hits more than one spot at a time. So this is a function, because every vertical line hits only 1 point on the graph. You can also use your pencil and kind of go across and kind of see, okay, does it ever hit more than one spot? So over here you could be like, oh, yes, it does hit more than one spot right there. This one right here, again, if you just draw some vertical lines, you say, oh, okay, this one's fine. Only hits 1 point at a time. So yes, this is a function. Okay, now just be clear, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and this right here is what we're determining if it's a function or not. It is not a function because if you draw a vertical line through it, that line hits it at every point it has. So it definitely hits more than one because it hits them all at once. So vertical lines are never functions. They fail the vertical line test in an epic fashion. Now horizontal lines, I'll go ahead and tell you, those are fine. So if these are our axes, and I draw this horizontal line, it's okay because the vertical lines just hit it 1 point at a time. So horizontal lines are functions, but vertical lines are not. Okay, on this one, it is a function because it only hits vertical lines 1 point at a time. For this one, it is also a function. It does some curving, but that's fine. Curves don't make you not a function. It's just when a vertical line hits your graph at more than 1 point. So yes, this is a function. Okay, now to talk about tables a little bit. And this is our last thing. In a game called What's My Rule, Kenneth picked a card that said double a number, then add 3. So make a function table for the inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 3 columns this time because we're going to put the middle of the expression in the middle. So we'll start there. So let's look at what it says. The rule is double a number. So we need to multiply this number by 2, so 2 times x, then add 3. So whatever number we put in, we're supposed to double it, then add 3 to it. So we do 2 times 1 plus 3. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. Then we use the same rule and plug in 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. Same rule for 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. Then we do 2 times 4 plus 3. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So this middle column was just to help us figure out how we got from x to y. From 1 to 5, from 2 to 7, from 3 to 9, and 4 to 11. So they tell us to write an algebraic expression for the rule. Well, we did that right here, so they're just wanting us to write 2x plus 3 right here. That's the expression that explains how we get from the x value to the y value. Also explains how they are related to each other. Then for the domain is all the x values. So we just list these numbers right as they're on the line. Make sure you put commas between them. Domain is all the x values, and the range is all the y values. So I just list the y values. And there were no repeats here, so nothing to worry about. But remember, if we'd seen a number show up twice in the y column, we'd only list it once in the range. If we'd seen a number show up more than once in the x column, we'd still only list it one time in the domain. So don't forget that there are no repeats written in the domain or range.